I'm Natalie Naylor, part of the Next Education Workforce team, and I have the honor and privilege of working with secondary schools as they are building Next Education Workforce models on the ground. And I also have the extreme honor to be able to work with school like ASU Preparatory Academy, Polytechnic, a K-12 school close to the ASU, Arizona State University Poly University campus. And they're going to share a little bit about how they have redesigned their school to focus on putting learners in the center. I'm going to hand it over to our school principal, Claudia Mendoza.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are excited to tell you all about our school. Well, the inspiration for Spark Institute began with the idea for a small school within a school model to help support the transition from the middle school to from the elementary to the middle school for our students. It was perfect timing with the moving of the middle school to the actual high school building. And that was the way that we were able to build our new model. By the way, Spark came from Sparky, the Sun Devil, and our students being part of ASU. It's really neat to see our students, as early as preschool and kindergarten, considering themselves to be little Sun Devils. So they know the pitchfork early on. So as we began, on this awesome adventure, little did we know that the pandemic would be happening as we began planning together with Teachers College. However, we were committed to our launch, and we have successfully done this despite the challenges. Building on a history of excellence at Poly, our network challenged us to see where we can take our schools to next in this partnership with Teachers College. As part of ASU, we actively worked to be model builders, and we help to inform the field of education. Together, the design team has outlined an ambitious set of goals. Poly is a leader of these changes in our network, and so we are designing with an eye towards scalability for all learners that we serve. So core to our design was, of course, teams of teams with distributed expertise. They shared responsibility for the students' success and for the culture building that came with the new school model. It has been truly amazing to witness their growth and strengths shine in this new model. Our teams have further worked together towards some really interesting new work in the area of electives. Gone are the limited number of choice or isolated subject areas that tend to happen to secondary, in the secondary schools. And so by utilizing an integrated electives approach, electives are flexible. They're not traditional or fixed. Electives are also driven by project-based learning investigations. And then teacher roles are more flexible by combining, an example is we combine English and history into a humanities course. And then, of course, our teachers will tell you all about our current focus that we actually just completed, the 10X focus. But I think at this time, Natalie, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you as the most exciting portion of our presentation is coming up. You are going to get to have an awesome conversation with our remarkable team of teachers who not only are experts in their field, but they're experts at doing what they have a passion for doing, and that is teaching our students and spending every day with them. So Natalie, I'll go ahead and hand it back to you.
Great, thank you. And again, welcome to those who came during the presentation. I'm excited and honored to be able to host and moderate this session around our ASU Preparatory Academy Spark Institute. We're gonna do a panel of questions with 3 of our educators. Before we get started, I'm gonna let the panel introduce themselves. Valerie, do you wanna get started?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to attend this special workshop. My name is Valerie Vogelscheit. I serve as an 8th grade science teacher at Spark Institute, and I also serve in the role of the project manager for our initiative.
Thanks, Laura.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Grunwald. I do 7th and 8th grade integrated electives.
Justin?
Good morning. I'm Justin Scholes. I do 7th grade English Language Arts and Social Studies.
Great, thanks, Justin. Team, our first question is related to how this team makes what you do possible. Can you talk a little bit about that? Laura, do you want to start us?
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I would say working together allows us to overcome obstacles that as a standalone teacher, I never would have been able to accomplish on my own. We all know that teaching in isolation really is a thing of the past. And I feel, everyday teaching as a whole is morphing and changing because of the pandemic, and we're doing the virtual and the hybrid and the blended learning. And so I feel like as a team, we needed each other a lot this year, and we really relied on each other's expertise, especially as we're starting to explore project-based learning and how to keep students engaged and prepared for college and career readiness. This team dynamic has been really helpful. As a team, we're invested not only in the creation of project-based learning, but it's the planning, the grading, but also the caring for the students. Teaming has allowed us to showcase our expertise of our teachers as every new project is developed and has created a sense of community. With us as well, we've become very close, but also with our student population. We're now starting to see that students understand that every teacher on our team of 10 is part of the project. And then when students need guidance, they don't feel like they're stuck with one person, that core teacher or that advisory teacher. We're starting to see the students that if they have a problem or they need help or assistance, they feel open to going to anyone because they see how we're connected. And they also know too, we grade projects together. We talk to each other about, behaviors and things. So I think that's a beauty that you don't get when you're just you in your classroom, right? It's multiple eyes on the students, seeing them from all different perspectives. And it's really been very, not to use the word eye again, but eye-opening, right? As we're kind of going through the process. I think one of our key factors is communication, and that we validate that everyone has a voice and something to offer as we work together. We do plan weekly, and we communicate daily on grades and students' progress and their social emotional learning. And it's a journey, and I just try to keep that driving question in my head, that what's best for kids. And I think that's always kind of, as a team, what's kind of pushing us forward as we're going through the process.
Great, thanks, Laura. Justin, do you want to share how teaming, what that has meant for you?
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. So what I really wanted to share today was how this looks different maybe than other ideas of teaming. And it honestly has been a highlight for me. The 10 of us here at this middle school. I love these other teachers, and I've learned so much. So this is my 10th year teaching. I've been on teams, of course. You usually have your grade level team. So I'm a 7th grade teacher. We plan school activities, we set grade level expectations, those kinds of things. And, I've also been on teams based on content area. So, I've worked with other English teachers, make sure that, we're got the vertical alignment and also, sometimes the grade level alignment. And this is not that. This is very, very different. I've even talked to other teachers before, bounced ideas around, hey, I'm teaching this in English. Do you want to do something in social studies? It's kind of the same. But that's the extent of the teaming that I've experienced. And this has been so neat because all 10 of us come together and all 10 of us plan and design. And that has given me so much perspective on not only designing of the project, but thinking through how to work with students, how to make sure that they can succeed. And that really has been amazing to see, like that consistent, purposeful planning with other teachers. And another thing I wanted to share was how we contribute in the different ways. So Valerie mentioned this when she introduced herself, but we all kind of take on different roles. Obviously, we have our content area that kind of we come from with that expertise. I do English language arts and social studies, but it's so neat that we are not limited by that role. I coached speech and debate, I coached sports, and I get to bring some of those passions into these things. Valerie came to us with experience as a project manager before coming to education. She has saved us being our project manager. She sets agendas. She helps us run these meetings. She reminds us of tasks that we need to do. Laura here, she has expertise in project-based learning, where it is new for most of the rest of us. And so we really lean on Laura when there's questions about what can this look like? What have you seen out there in the world, other schools? What's happening? Some other teachers, so we've got our STEM teacher. She was a photojournalist. She was a high-ranking officer in the Army Reserve, and she was an Arctic scientist, and she brings that in to our projects. Our PE teacher has a degree, of course, in exercise science. She also has a degree in music, and she's able to bring that in. She's not just the PE teacher. She can bring her music expertise and other passions. And our newest member, we have a first-year teacher on the team. He's a math teacher in 7th grade. Phenomenal. He's got the math expertise, but he's also young and hip, something that I can't say about myself anymore. And we love him because he just brings in the things that students are interested in right now, because he's got that attachment. He knows, the TikToks and the gaming and the anime and things that we might not think about. He's able to bring that in and keep students very, very engaged. And so the point is, we all come with these really different backgrounds, and it's not just that I'm the English teacher, but I have things to contribute in different ways. Just like other teachers have phenomenal things they share with me about English. I want to kind of finish by saying that we're very deliberate about making sure everyone on the team has a voice. So there are different perspectives, and there have certainly been conflicts, all professional, but there have been times where we come to a standstill and we can't agree right away. And I love that. We're all very close knit. We're professional. We love each other, and we build off each other and we resolve those. And we do that with openness and respect. And the students actually get to see some of that. They get to see us work together. So we kind of model that in front of students and how to work through things. And that's also different. I would never in the past have thought that I could work with other teachers in front of students and have them see what that looks like if there's not perfect agreement. But it's an amazing thing, and they see that collaboration. And that's why I wanted to share about how teaming is special here.
Great, thanks, Justin. Valerie, do you want to share your thoughts?
Absolutely. So Justin and Laura had excellent insight for you. I really like how they explained a few ideas about building and sustaining what we like to call at ASU Prep self-directed teams. These are organic and dynamic, and they really allow teachers to become more than their position. They help our relationships grow deeper with one another and with the students. However, what I personally like best about the PBL team approach is the ability to provide feedback to our students. As we know, there's great power in providing both immediate and substantial feedback for our 21st century learners. By building these subgroups within our combined middle school faculty, we're able to create cohort teams. These can be partnerships between core subject teachers, core and integrated elective teachers, or a greater number of faculty to produce those big grade level groups. These cohort teams are useful in creating a feedback panel, which promotes in-depth, authentic responses to students, which in turn strengthens deeper personalized learning. Luckily, all feedback and grades can be memorialized through a learning management system. At ASU Prep, we utilize Canvas. This platform is powerful enough to align PBL work to learning standards among multiple cross-curricular subjects, making it very seamless and easy for us to manage. Doing this allows us to create connections between key concepts learned in ELA, math and science, and other subjects of personal interest for the student. So in short, technology has a major role in PBL success as well, and helps the teachers successfully track all the moving parts of the project. Natalie?
Great, thanks, Valerie. Our second question is around deeper and personalized learning. Can you talk about how you're better able to support learners differently being on a team than when you were in a one-to-one classroom? And how does your team approach project-based learning? Laura, do you want to start?
Yes. So project-based learning allows the students to take ownership of their learning through choices of pathways, products, and teams. Having a team of teachers invest in all the students helps us to differentiate also our students' learning and to support them in a way that typically we couldn't support on a one-on-one classroom. The whole team isn't just looking at academic achievement, but also that social emotional learning is a big part, because if kids are going to be successful in project-based learning and agreeing to disagree with each other and promoting ideas and generating ideas, there has to be those other pieces behind there to help them support themselves as they kind of go through that process. I would say at the beginning of the year is the hardest. That's where we're laying that foundation for students. So as a team, what we would do is we have advisory times, and during those times, sometimes it's just all 7th grade together. Sometimes it's all 8th grade. Sometimes we're together as a big group. That's a lot of times when we're doing that social emotional learning activities. We're practicing on reflecting. We might be practicing speaking skills. And so that also allows us that all the teachers are in the Zoom together with the kids, right? They see us interacting. And even when we were in school, we're popping in and out of each other's classroom, maybe coming in at the end of the lesson and giving a piece to the students that way. So they're constantly seeing how the teachers are working together. And because of that, we're allowed to have multiple eyes on the kids to see them in all types of different settings. And I think that really helps us to meet their individual needs in a way that we otherwise couldn't. The process of collaboration is never perfect. I feel like we're learning as we go. We're really fortunate. We have an amazing team of teachers. We've learned to agree to disagree on some things, like Justin was saying, but we've also know that our goal is to do what's right for kids and to make something that's really meaningful. And so I think that's always kind of driving us and pushing us forward.
Thanks, Laura. Justin, will you share your perspective on project-based learning?
Definitely. I want to kind of go off of what Laura was saying there for a minute. When we were coming together and we're new together this year, we really wanted to let students take ownership of the learning. And that's always been my goal. I mean, as a teacher, and you think about how can you really accomplish that. And it's been amazing to me, the things that I've learned from my teammates and to see how they approach that. And this takes a lot of time for students, of course. So the beginning of the year, we were very, very, we invested a lot of time in trying to help students understand this concept, because unfortunately, we know schooling, we kind of train kids to do what they're told, and telling kids that they're going to take ownership, that's a very different idea. And you can't just pull the supports out from under them and say, go. So we invested a lot of time. Our first project was called My Story, Our Story. I just want to kind of give an example here. It was a photojournalism project, and we wanted students to think about their community story, and then their own personal story and how they fit into that. And photojournalism was the lens. And, we didn't just give them that theme and say, go. We had to train them on how to express their voice and their interests. How do you choose a direction that you're personally interested in, and how do you take the skills that we're giving you and work with that? So they learned how to take effective photographs. They learned about perspective. We had all of us were coming from different perspectives. The art teacher showed lots of examples. Our STEM teacher was a photojournalist, so she talked to them about her experience. We brought in, I think Laura mentioned this, we brought in photojournalists to talk to the kids in our community. And, we gave students guidance, but then we also worked with them to see how they could make their own decisions and choose their own paths forward. As this year has progressed, we've definitely been able to give more and more ownership. So that has changed over the course of the year, how our guidance looks. And students now they take on the responsibility for marketing their ideas. They have to revise, do multiple iterations of projects. And then there's always a presentation, including a process piece where they reflect on the process and their learning. And sometimes there's failures and sometimes there's challenges, and that's okay. Frankly, my students haven't experienced enough of that. And it's very neat to see them work through those struggles. Of course, we're there to help them along the way. But what else did I want to share? I'm checking my notes here. Oh, here's an example as an English language arts teacher. So one thing that was really neat that I've seen is how students are able to start choosing their own reading material. Usually as the English teacher, I do a lot of that. I provide them the reading material. With this format, they get guidance on finding good information, but they do a lot of that work on their own. And we have such a wide variety that I could never provide to students. So that's very different from the normal setting. And students come to us way more often when they need help. They take that ownership. So we keep tabs on them. Absolutely. We're teachers, but I don't have to chase down kids as often. They are coming to me, or they're going to another teacher and they're asking for that help. And that is such a neat thing. And I just want to mention with the Our Story project, an example of that was the kids know I love sports. I used to coach, and a few students wanted to do some of their project on sports in the community, and they came to me. I was not their advisory teacher, but they came to talk to me, and that was so fun for me that they would come to me and just chat with me about it. And that was them seeking out the learning. That wasn't me chasing kids down, and I love that about this format.
Great, thanks, Justin. Valerie, you want to wrap us up on this question around deeper and personalized learning?
Sure. So again, special thanks to Justin and Laura. They are definitely our thought leaders when it comes to projects. They did a great job of framing the overall benefit to adopting a team environment to produce student agency through the use of projects. Also, students learn to advocate for themselves too as an added bonus. So my role here to tell you today is to help us all focus on how to manage it all. Again, we use Canvas, and it maintains and categorizes all of our instructional objectives, the standards from the cross-curricular subjects that we integrate into each one of our projects across the many diverse subjects, learning materials, lesson activities, rubrics, grades, and of course, peer review and faculty feedback. What I enjoy most about the Canvas system is creating pathways of learning. This can be done in one of two ways. The first option is utilizing Mastery Paths. That's a built-in feature of Canvas. It allows students to set their path seamlessly and automatically. However, sometimes this can result in some grade syncing issues within some student information systems. Because of that, there becomes a big clerical load on top of the teachers. And so another option to pursue is potentially manually using modules. If you do this approach, then those of you that were potentially utilizing another system like Schoology or Google Classroom can adopt this practice as well. This is how it goes. For example, in our current project, students are creating a short adventure or mystery story to solve the driving questions where we integrate logic and reasoning. Students are then provided with 3 choices for the deliverable. In our case right now, we're allowing them to write a narrative story or choosing a pathway where they would either write a story or create a Google Slides interactive adventure through a choose your own adventure process, similar to when some of us were younger, the actual hardcover books where you would read something, it would say, please turn to page so-and-so if you decide this. Now with the beauty of hyperlinks and hyperdocs, we can do that digitally. And then the last option would be building an escape room through Google Forms. So once the student chooses their particular deliverable and their format, then they would move through a blended learning model through path, pace, and place, utilizing those modules in Canvas. So they'll be rerouted to a particular module. That module will include relevant learning activities to build skills and knowledge, with the goal of them being able to draft, edit, and finalize their project artifact for their authentic audience. The module pathways are made possible by our team of experts that Justin spoke about earlier that have diverse skills, background, education, and expertise. So again, we're able to leverage not only student interest to promote engagement, but we're also able to leverage the background and skills of all of our teachers and their unique abilities. This enables us to specialize our content for unique student interests and offers guided support for students as they build those necessary academic and technical skills. Natalie?
Great, thanks, Valerie. We're gonna fly through our last question for our panel so that we have some time for Q&A. So if you have a question, attendees, go ahead and put it in the chat. I am keeping track of them, and then we'll have some open dialogue after this last question. So our final question is around specializations and advancement pathways. How do teaching professionals, sort of with varying levels of experience, get just right responsibilities on part of your team? Laura, do you want to start?
I will, and I'm going to address how we've utilized our community and our ASU family to kind of help us with our projects. So it definitely takes a village to create authentic PBL, but in our case, our village is other professionals that we've needed to have them come in to kind of help us. And so I think that's been a really big key to our success. And so some of the examples are for our photography unit, like Justin mentioned, we had photojournalists from the state press come in. They showed their work, they talked about ethics, they talked about what does it mean to be a photojournalist. And our last project, which was with 10X, their partnership through ASU, and they talk about the I-10 freeway and sustainability and how is Arizona have the same issues that Louisiana does, or someplace in Florida or in LA. And so they came in twice, once to launch the project, actually 3 times, I think, a second time to talk about sustainability and compare those different areas. And then when we closed out our project, they actually picked our first, second, and third place winners of our final product. And so they presented those awards to the students and then talked about what they liked about those projects. So that was something that personally I couldn't give to the kids. I didn't have that knowledge, but there are people in our community that can help us with that. And then coming up in our next unit, Mysterium, we have 2 authors coming in to talk to the students about creating suspense. How do you get published? That type of thing. And then our last project of the year, which will be in the spring, will be with ETX, which is education through exploration. And they're going to be teaching the students how to make virtual field trips. So they'll help us along the way with the expertise and any of the technology pieces that we need as well to supplement our teachers as well, because we all have expertise, but we can't be experts in everything. So that community piece is really important.
Great, thanks, Laura. Justin, you want to finish us off and wrap up this question?
Yep, I'll be super brief. So when you talk about just right responsibilities, I mean, the gist of that is we make sure that everyone is given things that they can accomplish. We make sure no one is overwhelmed. We're very flexible with each other. The newer members of the team, like our first year teacher, we make sure that they're not overwhelmed. We've got student teachers with us. Their ideas are invited, and slowly over time, they'll get some more responsibility. And those of us who've been around for a while, this is a nice way of putting it, we take on more of the responsibility. And but we are flexible. 3 of us are here today, so we're not with our students. What happened this morning, the other 7th grade teachers all got together with all the students and helped out to get them all started for the day. Same thing happened with the 8th grade. Those other teachers have our back. We have their back. This is how we work with each other. We just share responsibility and we shift around as we need.
Great, thanks, Justin. We're going to open it up for some Q&A for just about 10 minutes or so. There were 2 questions put in the chat. One around preparing students for high school. Valerie, would you talk a little bit about that since you've been a high school teacher also?
Sure, absolutely. So in my background, I actually come from industry science. And so I was an executive leader, transitioned into post-secondary instructional design, taught post-secondary, moved into high school, and here I am in middle school, and this is my new home. What I've noticed is a common theme between all of those levels, and that career and college readiness requires adaptability. I feel like the projects that we create have 4 things in common with this adaptability theme. The first is self-regulation and self-monitoring. Students are able to pivot as needed. So they're able to reflect through metacognition, determine where they're going wrong, what else they need to learn, what other skills that they need to grow in order to get to that end destination project. Planning and time management, as we know, is crucial for success. So the projects that we set up are generally pretty well scaffolded for them. We do a lot of breakdown and chunking for the younger students, but as they progress between the models, they're going to start chunking those themselves, and they're going to set goals, what they want to achieve for the day, for the week, for the month, and then for the project. Innovation is key to success as well. And the projects help them with deep thinking, specifically surrounding problem solving, critical thinking, and feasibility of their design and their solutions. So I feel that projects are a way to open up the world to a student that might be confined by the 4 classroom walls. It gives them the opportunity, availability, and permission to think really high level about the world they'd like to create. Natalie?
Great, thanks, Val. There was another question in the chat. I think it was from Elaine around sharing how specific PBL unit worked. Elaine, I think they talked a little bit about some of the projects. Is there a more specific part of the project you're curious to learn more about? Laura's our PBL expert and will answer. I just wanted to see if there was anything more you wanted to add to that question now that they've been talking for a while.
Well, they have given some examples, but they're kind of general, but I understand that. So I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I was going to say, I think one thing that we didn't mention that maybe might be helpful is we always start our projects with a launch, something that really gets the kids jazzed up. We will have the driving question. We usually do a survey to see like the pathways in which they want to go that we've already pre-set up. Along the way, we always have milestones and check-ins for the students. That might mean they're checking in with each other, might mean they're checking in with a teacher to see the progress that they're going. And then they have deliverables at different times as well. So they might have a final deliverable, but there might be pieces along the way that have to get turned in as well to be checked off. And then at the end, we always have a huge celebration, right? We share our work, we reflect, we have some type of program, and then automatically we're launching the next project. So I don't know if that kind of helps you see what that might, it's very condensed, but that's kind of what it looks like.
Thanks, Laura. We have a few more minutes for questions. Are there any other questions from the group? one question that the last group presentation had was around meeting the needs of all the students, specifically struggling learners, potentially students with 504 and IEPs. Justin, could you talk a little bit about how you ensure that all the students get the support they need?
Sure, thanks, Natalie. So this is kind of just getting into the, here's a teacher perspective, the honest truth. We know that we got to put a lot into this to make it work. And when we meet, so we have 2-hour meetings every week. We're also constantly texting each other. We happen to really like each other a lot. So we have constant communication. But as it pertains to this project, we are always pushing each other. Someone will say, hey, I got this great question from a student. What do you all think? And we just have constant communication. And as a part of our design, when we go to that 2-hour meeting every week to talk about this specifically, there are a few of us who kind of have taken on the role of making sure that we pause as we design and ask, what does this look like for students? Are they going to get lost? Will they understand? Can they do this on their own yet? What do we need to put in place if they can't? On our team, myself and the 7th science teacher, her name is Angie, she and I are on that same wavelength, and we've just fallen into that role where we will pause the whole process and we'll say, all right, we can't, hang on. Let's think about our students here. I don't know that they're going to understand this. I don't know that they're prepped for this. What are we expecting? What do we actually expect them to do? What does this look like? What does the student do who doesn't understand? And that is a wonderful thing. Makes the process long, but it's crucial. We have to think about every student. We do have a lot of IEP and 504 students, and we take special consideration for them as well, making sure that we have that support. And I would just say that, Natalie, that's a part of our design. Like we don't just throw stuff down. We stop and we make sure that it's going to work.
Great, thank you. Claudia, I want to give you a chance to wrap us up. If you want to go ahead and share a little bit about kind of what you've been learning at Spark Institute and what plans are for the future.
I will first unmute myself because I was on mute. I actually have a t-shirt that says, "You're on mute." I think that's the biggest phrase these days. Well, so yes, Natalie, all of this awesome work that our middle school design team is doing is also laying the foundation for the exciting work happening now for phase 2, which is our high school next education workforce model, which is coming soon. We are actually preparing now we've actually already launched it, and we are preparing to really start working with teachers, present our ideas to our parents. And so part of this expansion obviously is going to continue to include ASU and the great partnership that we have in them. But the way that we're integrating with ASU is they're gonna, the panel has actually already obviously talked about a lot of the projects and how we're incorporating them, but they're allowing for us to bring them in and help us with just making decisions about projects. Also, as we start to prepare our students, in 8th grade for high school, providing a pathway, allowing for students to have, to have their collaborations kind of go more into a certain direction. And so we're starting to lay that foundation for students, to introduce to them the Poly Pathway Academies that we are going to be launching for our high school. And so basically that's going to mean that students will have they'll have access to quite a few courses that they'll be able to take concurrently through open scale courses at Poly, at the Poly campus. And that's actually how we're going to be able to drive that PK20 continuum. So we're super excited about that. Spark Institute looks forward to preparing students for their decision now to join the academies at the high school. And basically the academies are smaller communities tied deeply to the physical programs available here at the ASU Poly campus. So we're super excited. We have learned so much, just from the Spark Institute and what we've been, and the team really has been able to create for our students. I think everything that we set out to do, we have accomplished it. And obviously we're going to continue, changing as we go and learning from our mistakes and honestly, that's the best way to show students too, that perfection is not an expectation, but really it's reflection on everything that you're doing. We're really working hard to hold them accountable or allow for them to hold themselves accountable for their learning and creating that student agency in them. So yeah, that's where we're excited. I think we're in a really great place right now. It seems like in education, we start preparing for the following year, as soon as we say Happy New Year in January. So I feel like we're on a good track for that.
Great, thanks, Claudia. Are there any last minute questions you can throw in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the group any questions before we go to some self-facilitated breakouts? All right, can we give Valerie, Laura, Justin, and Claudia